I had heard of people having kids in that surprise sort of way, but I never thought that it would happen to me.
A lot of people have 9 months to prepare for a baby, whereas we had 2 weeks at the most.
I went to the bathroom and it was like just a weird pain and he just like came out. My name's Lara and I'm 23 and 15 months ago I had a surprise baby. I was always super ambitious with my career and I wanted to own my own business. I was just studying and going out with friends and I was planning a Europe trip. The day before he was born, I started a new job and I just felt so sick all day. I sort of got out of bed and was like, thought I was gonna throw up. So I ran to the bathroom. I just got there in time, but as soon as I got into the bathroom, he just like came out into the toilet. I remember like holding the walls, being like, what has just happened? This is bizarre. I like yelled out to my dad because he's really good in those situations. Dad wrapped Hudson up in a towel and was like holding the umbilical cord and sort of like rocking him, and my brother called the ambulance and they were here like really quickly. I had never held a baby and the ambulance, people were like, here, hold your child. And I was like, I don't know how to. You're gonna have to tell me how you hold like a newborn. And then we got to hospital and everyone was like, congratulations, you've got a baby. And I had to explain to them that this wasn't, I didn't know I was pregnant and wasn't planning on this. And they were all sort of like, oh, it happens, like it's pretty common, whatever, he's healthy.
Having concealed pregnancies or unknown pregnancies is actually not all that uncommon. The literature says that about 1 in 500 pregnancies, the woman appears either late in pregnancy or as late as being in labour.
Until it happens to you, I guess you've got no real way to explain it. When you tell people that you didn't know you were pregnant, you get so many different reactions. And you get some people that just flat out don't believe you and they just sort of go like, okay, whatever. My name's Megan, I'm 22 years old and I didn't know I was pregnant until I was in labour. I was studying business at Swinburne, doing a Bachelor of Business, majoring in public relations, hanging out with friends all the time, and I was just really looking forward to working full-time, having money and just being independent and not tied down by study anymore. The night before, I didn't get much sleep. I was in a lot of pain. I had cramps coming all night. I went into triage and they pulled out a little tiny ultrasound machine, put it on my stomach, and I heard them sort of talking to each other and they said, is that a heartbeat? That's a heartbeat. That's not her heartbeat. And at that point I just went, oh my God. Like, oh my God, that's, what do you mean it's not my heartbeat? They did like an internal examination, saw that I was already beginning to dilate and they said, you're in labour and you're going to have a baby today. I vomited straight away and we both cried a little bit.
It had gone past the point of a choice, you know, we had to have the baby and that was it. It was like he was coming.
We'll see 3 or 4 women a year who just turn up unexpected. They genuinely don't know. As you can imagine, it's such a confronting experience to be a normal, healthy young woman one day and be a mother an hour later.
I had no idea I was pregnant. I had my period the whole time. I put on weight, but I put on exactly what Hudson weighed. So I wasn't big anywhere else and I didn't have like a belly. It was just sort of like I needed to go to the gym a bit.
Often young women, their abdominal muscles are so good that the baby is quite flat, so not the huge protruding belly that you might expect.
I didn't get my period because I was on the pill. I was choosing to not have my period. I remember one day I was feeling a bit strange. I had some cramps. I'm like, yeah, these are a bit worse than usual. And they went on for a couple of days. I went to the doctor and he said, go home, do a pregnancy test. So I did. Pregnancy test came back negative. And so that was kind of it. I said on the first night, is it okay if he stays in the special care nursery? Because I didn't want to form any sort of attachment with him. We just wanted the situation to be dealt with as soon as possible so we could go back to a normal life. The day we had to give him up, the day we both got discharged, was probably the worst day of my life. I felt like the worst person in the world because he was being taken away, and I'd signed the paper to say, yeah, like put him with somebody else. He went into temporary foster care for, it was probably about 10 days whilst we made up our minds.
When Hudson was born, I wasn't with Hudson's dad, James, but he came into the hospital straight away and yeah, has been really supportive. I told him over a really bad text message. I think it said something like, hey James, like, so something weird happened this morning. I had a baby, lol, like, haha, tell me what you think.
The major risk for women whose pregnancy is unknown is that they don't access pregnancy care.
The whole time Hudson was developing, I ate what I wanted, I was drinking, I didn't have any checkups or anything.
I had my 21st when I was about 7 months pregnant, so I drank alcohol, I smoked cigarettes. I still worry that what I did whilst I was pregnant is going to affect Theodore later on.
There are risks, particularly to the developing brain of the baby, and there is a syndrome called fetal alcohol syndrome where these babies are born with brain injury and other physical problems because mums have drunk alcohol across the pregnancy.
I guess when he reaches school age and it comes to reading and writing, we'll have to see what happens. But as far as we can tell now, he's perfectly happy and healthy.
My life's changed a lot since I had Hudson. I've just been much more focused with work. I started my own business called the Ladies Network, and I've just become much more, I guess, focused on what's a priority and what's not.
In the end, everything has worked out so well, and I love him more than anything, and life's really good. Life's amazing.